I've always known of Sega's Space Channel 5, but truthfully I've been entirely unfamiliar with the series until very recently, including the fact that it was even a rhythm game. The series' main protagonist Ulala's character design just looks so unique, intriguing, and instantly recognizable. I feel like anyone who knows anything about Sega's iconic characters pictures Ulala alongside the likes of Billy Hatcher, Knights, Amigo, Shenmue, etc. Since spotting her in Astrobot, I decided to look into the series more. Its neat mix of retrofuturism with funky music and pop drew me in very quickly, finally pushing me to check out the series. I mean, all of that and the fact that I had already owned Space Channel 5 Part 2 in my Steam library, but whatever. So now that I've played through each of Ulala's funky and spectacular adventures, I thought I'd share my opinions and recommendations of each, starting with the Dreamcast original, Space Channel 5. Released in December 1999 in Japan and June 2000 in North America, followed by a PS2 port in 2002, Sega's Space Channel 5 was a fresh new take on the rhythm game genre, having the player press along with the directions of the characters on screen in a Simon Says-like manner, utilizing character models laid on top of pre-rendered CG backgrounds. The game didn't release to much success sales-wise, but was praised for its original art direction of retrofuturism sci-fi mixed with funky attitude, and that really does give this game and the series as a whole a sense of originality that you can't quite find anywhere else. While I'm definitely not the most experienced guy when it comes to rhythm games by any means, I feel like Space Channel 5 teeters a little bit too much on the unpolished side of things. At least in my experience, the game can be incredibly picky when it wants to read your inputs, which can lead to a lot of irritation when you feel like you inputted the correct buttons to the rhythm properly. Now I will note that I did resort to emulation to play this game, but I tried my best to avoid any input delay by using a wired controller, which definitely helped a shit ton, but I still feel like a game this short and simplistic shouldn't be this picky regarding its rhythm and input window. Even so, I have heard several voice their opinions regarding the iffy input delay online, so at least I'm not alone in that feeling. At first, I was fairly surprised that there were no visual indicators as to when to press the buttons to the rhythm, but in retrospect I feel like Rhythm Heaven similarly handles its gameplay, having the player rely on their own sense of rhythm to correctly match the beat. I eventually came to appreciate the style of gameplay as it forced me to be as attentive as possible and really appreciate the music, despite how samey it feels, for what it is. I found the graphical style of 3D models on CG backgrounds neat, but I feel like both would have blended together a lot better if I were playing on original hardware, especially on a CRT. Having to copy the enemy's movements or point in the direction of the enemies you have to shoot or civilians you have to save was a fun way to include the groove, dance, and rhythm into the actual narrative and game, weaving those two aspects together quite well. I do like the overall setup of these aliens, the Morolians, invading this futuristic version of Earth with this hip and sweet news reporter Ulala who also wields a quirky laser gun, stopping the Morolians and saving their hostages along the way while covering the situation on live television. Now, let's be honest fellas, Ulala's a fairly accurate name. I mean God damn, you say ooh la la every time you see her in her groovy walk hitting that groovy strut. Her director Fuse guides her along the way, and I just love the cheesy dub voices for both Ulala and Fuse. It just adds so much personality to a game that's already chock full of it. Speaking of fun characters, why the actual fuck is Space Michael Jackson here? According to his character bio, he helped stop an alien invasion 500 years before the plot of the game, with the game taking place in 2499 AD, meaning that Mikey Jackson stopped a whole ass Independence Day event in the year of our Lord 1999. There are other characters that show up like rival reporters from rival stations or Jaguar, the leader of the pirate station searching for the truth, but I'm going to be honest and say that they aren't the most memorable in my eyes. My favorite parts of each mission were the bosses at the end, as I love their quick button patterns and gimmicks, like the one where you have to follow the directions of the one half of the alien that moves to connect it to the other half to shoot it, or to correctly shoot the monitors corresponding to either the Morolians or the civilians. The multiple phases of the final boss are also pretty cool, with Evola, a robot version of Ulala, proving to be the most difficult in my eyes, with the incredibly late inputs to a rhythm proving quite the challenge, forcing you to keep a pretty damn good internal metronome. I also really like the part of the fight against Chief Blank where everything turns all cel-shaded and you have to shoot Blank's monitors and send a rescue beam to Ulala's monitors, or even the bit against Giant Evola where you have to input the reverse of the spoken action, which got pretty tough the faster things got. I can't imagine paying for this game when it first came out, because there are only 4 levels, and while it took me a little under 2.5 hours to beat it, I can easily see this game taking an hour and a half to finish for someone who's much more attuned to rhythm games than I am. I did like that there were character bios for literally every single NPC and character model in the entire game. That's genuine commitment to making at least some attempt at world building, so that's pretty commendable, although the UI for the game in general isn't the greatest. Overall, the original Space Channel 5 was pretty neat, funky, groovy even. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, and I'm sure there are much better rhythm games out there to introduce myself into the genre, but I'm still glad that I played and experienced this nonetheless, as the vibes, atmosphere, and aesthetic that inhabit this game stuck with me for days after playing. Originally released only in Japan for the Dreamcast and PS2 in February 2002, North America would see Space Channel 5 Part 2 released as part of the first game's PS2 port in November 2003, with the game being released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360 in 2011, although it's been delisted from Steam as of December 2024, so now the HD version is only available via the PlayStation Network on PS3. This sequel's ratings are much higher than those of the first game, so going into it I was really interested to see how this game improved upon the structure that had been set up in its predecessor. Gone are the pre-rendered backgrounds as they've been replaced with fully 3D backgrounds rendered in-game, and it's actually insane how much better the overall game looks thanks to this. There's still pre-rendered cutscenes mixed in here and there, and in the widescreen re-releases those 4x3 cutscenes thankfully aren't stretched, but I think they fit a lot better this time around. This simple change in graphical presentation allows Part 2 to pop that much more in the visual department. I can't express just how much this game looks better than the first despite having the same character models and overall design and graphical style. Shit just kisses and massages your brain. It definitely has a lot to do with just how saturated everything looks, allowing everything to pop out and stick in your mind that much more. I also just think the overall setup of this game works a lot better somehow. The new star system works really well at rewarding you for doing well by allowing you more opportunities to avoid failure, and if you maintain said stars, your overall ratings percentage stays consistently high. This allows a lot more margin for error while keeping the challenge consistent. This perfectly fixes a big issue I had with the first game where outside of brief sections in each mission where hearts would appear, you couldn't really fail, leading to the possibility of going through the entire mission without actually losing, only for your ratings percentage to not meet the minimum requirement, causing you to have to redo the entire 10-minute mission all over again. The star system, coupled with added checkpoints in between each section of a mission, allows failure to not feel as defeating. The tunes and overall button inputs alongside them feel a lot more impactful and ear-pleasing this time around. That includes the English dub voice clips, the inputs you have to match, the tunes being played, the areas you're playing in, etc. Everything just feels so much better to play this time around. The input delay and latency have improved significantly here as well, although that may just be me. I also really like the new enemy types, the robots and Shadow, the main goon of the Rhythm Rogues, led by main villain Purge. Shadow, not to be confused with the other black and red Sega character of the same name, was honestly really cool. I liked infiltrating his base with the entire gang and having to fight off his band with ours and then having to differentiate him amongst his clones afterward. Speaking of the band, Space Michael returns with a lot more significance this time around, practically being a part of the main group of characters, with almost all of Mission 4 revolving around rescuing him as he then fights Purge alongside you. Outside of this being fucking Michael Jackson, this level was probably my favorite in the entire game as it was just so fucking cool. Even the segment where you escape the exploding ship, a beat taken right out of the first game, is improved significantly here. I just love the fast-paced inputs when shooting the robots. Shit gets so intense and matches the vibes of a literal electric inferno being just behind you perfectly. This is then followed by a great segment with the gang infiltrating a base, with Ulala even wearing spy-like fashion. The inputs here are so unique, and this whole segment is just overall really fun, especially with the unique cel-shaded visuals of the environment and silhouettes, with the simplistic geometry covering the walls. The final mission has the gang face off against Purge after finally defeating Shadow, revealing that Purge had brainwashed Jaguar into villainy. Purge, as a last resort, transforms via the super duper suit, with his design in the arena Ulala fights him in being very reminiscent of the final boss from the first game. Ulala is actually defeated by Purge, with Channel 5's signal even being cut off. We then go inside Ulala's mind, where she's all roughed up with dirt. You hear faint claps in the distance, and the more you match them, the more your friends that you saved along the way clap along, all sending you their dance power until Ulala gets back up as Super Ulala. With a glowing pink aura surrounding her, she and everyone backing her fight against Purge, saving the president who he had previously kidnapped to gain the power of his song, as they finally defeat him in a beam struggle by sending the power of 800,000 people towards him, sealing him away and returning peace. In my opinion, not only is this story mode significantly better than the one in the first game, but it's also no wonder why so many people prefer this entry to the original. The character bios return in this game as well with improved UI, alongside a closet where you can change Ulala's outfit when replaying specific missions, or in playing the new challenge mode, where you have to go through 100 rounds matching the inputs. If you fail once, you've got to start right from the beginning. Pretty neat. And you can't forget the harder version of the base campaign. Overall, Space Channel 5 Part 2 is a significant improvement over the original in essentially every possible way. The better visuals, better tunes, better gameplay with the inclusion of Chew with the A button and Hey with the B button. You've got different voice lines of Ulala saying up, down, left, right depending on the situation, and of course you've got Space Michael taking center stage a little bit more, and I can't complain about more screen time from the Blue Gangsta. So yeah, play Space Channel 5 Part 2 if you haven't already. You don't even have to play the first game, especially considering how Part 2 is much more accessible. Kind of. Hopefully Sega puts it back out on PC again soon along with modern platforms. If not, make like Jaguar and become a space pirate. You ever play one of those PS2 era games that isn't on GameCube but is on the Game Boy Advance for whatever reason? That's Space Channel 5 Ulala's Cosmic Attack, a demake of the original Space Channel 5 for the GBA that was only released in North America and Europe despite being released in between the Japanese and North American releases of Space Channel 5 Part 2. This being a demake of a game that is entirely comprised of cutscenes and what are essentially the rhythm game versions of QuickTime events makes this into quite the oddity. A majority of the graphics are pre-rendered using the models from the Dreamcast version, and even then they have to reuse as many sprites as possible, or if the sprite is bigger than average, they have to just slide that shit across the screen. This just causes the game to look blotchy, with the sprite work itself being super lackluster. That combined with the chiptune MIDI versions of the iconic tracks from the original makes this version not the most fun thing ever. It definitely didn't help that the input delay on this game was fucking abysmal for me. I played this on my analog pocket and that only has about a single frame of input lag compared to an actual GBA, so having that final boss absolutely fuck me up the asshole was a real fucking pain in my ass. Any amount of fun or cool shit here is just carried over from the significantly better Dreamcast version, making this version completely obsolete in every single way possible. There is absolutely no reason to play this game unless you're someone like me who just wanted to check it out because it's part of the Space Channel 5 series as a whole, but outside of that, my ass will never be thinking about this version of the game ever again. It wasn't too long after purchasing Part 2 on Steam that I found out that the latest entry was a VR title released to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the first game's release. Despite being delayed into the next year and was then stuck as a PSVR timed exclusive for a few months due to COVID delays with the PC ports at the start of 2020. Regardless, my interest in Space Channel 5 just so happened to coincide with a little PSVR kick I was having, so I quickly added Space Channel 5 VR Kinda Funky Newsflash to my list of games that I was playing on the system, and I'm so glad that I decided to pick it up, even though it's a little expensive for what you get. Kinda Funky Newsflash is genuinely superior to the original Space Channel 5 in my eyes, and on par with Part 2 in terms of quality and how much enjoyment it provided me. Jumping ahead from the Dreamcast to the PS4 allows the game to look genuinely gorgeous. I think the updated character designs here are utterly phenomenal. Ulala has never looked so funky fresh, and it's amazing. I love how this game acts as a proper sequel to Part 2, taking place 3 years later with Ulala training in new Channel 5 recruits, with you playing as said recruit as you and Ulala journey to cover and stop Glitter and the other Moreaus from stealing all of the Groove Moxie in the galaxy to appease Glitter's appetite for it. Like the original game, there are only 4 missions here, causing a basic playthrough to only last you about 45 minutes. The first mission is essentially a callback to the very first mission in the original, where you save civilians from the Morolians. It's revealed afterwards that there is a new kind of Morolian, the other Moreaus, who are later revealed to be possessed by the same particles that make up Glitter. You chase after the other Moreaus' ship, fighting Jaguar's new space pirates along the way, until the ship sucks you and everyone else in, with it being up to you to save Ulala and friends, and ultimately defeat Glitter and save the galaxy. I find the adaptation of Space Channel 5's gameplay to VR here to be genuinely brilliant. Instead of pressing the given input in the correct order to the beat, you have to pose along to the beat, copying your opponent, whether it be pointing in certain directions, forward for chew, dodging attacks, or just posing in the same manner as them. Outside of hiccups from the PSVR itself, the gameplay here felt really intuitive and was really fun to control and pull off. Dancing along to the beat makes you feel groovy as hell when you're dancing alongside Ulala. I just can't express how fun and rewarding it is to play this game. There are even brief moments where you're able to high-five Ulala and friends, which, while it can be viewed as cheesy, does go a long way in immersing the player into the game itself. There are even blue little markers that pop up on the screen and when touched by the player increase the rating score, pushing the player to always be attentive so as to not miss them and to keep their rating score as high as possible to reach that 100% marker. When you're done story mode, you can put your skills to the test in harder versions of the main campaign or try to complete the returning 100-round dance battle, although this time you're allowed to fail as many times as you want, with your score percentage being calculated at the end, with the goal of course being to reach 100%, meaning no mistakes during your run, which takes about 10 minutes. This mode was really tough to get through without error, as there are so many poses you have to memorize, but it was so rewarding to finally pull it off. Same with hard mode. That shit was tough but fun as hell. Unfortunately, they had to recast Ulala's English voice here, but I think the actor who filled in does an excellent job at bringing the same vibe and energy that had been seen in previous entries. Fuse is oddly absent from this game until the credits, with an in-universe AI computer filling in his role. Oddly enough, there's a purchasable Hatsune Miku DLC pack that adds an additional level, which is essentially just a reskin of the first mission with neon lighting, and of course you get to dance alongside both Miku and Ulala. For purchasing the DLC, you can fit Ulala in Miku's traditional outfit or her more appropriately themed Space Channel 39 suit, alongside being able to change Ulala to look like other characters from throughout the base game. I genuinely wish there was more to this Miku DLC though, because for the price you pay for it, you only get an extra 10 to 20 minutes of content max. And plus, you have to listen to the English subs, which I'm sure they could have gone through the effort of getting Ulala's VA back and to generate Miku speaking those translated lines, because having subtitles at the bottom of a VR headset feels weird as hell. Due to this game being fairly short, especially compared to the campaigns in the first 2 games, I don't really have much else to say. This game is fun as hell and is probably one of my favorite VR games that I've played full stop. Like I said before, just literally moving to the beat alongside Ulala and crew feels so intuitive and fun, and I just can't understate that enough. If you've ever enjoyed Space Channel 5 or own a VR headset that supports this game, please check this out. It is so fun, and I just wish they would port it to PSVR too. Besides the 4 proper releases in the series, there have been some other oddities released throughout the years. We've got Ulala's Channel J, a Japan-only Vodafone mobile game that released in 2001 that consisted of several minigames, and Space Channel 5 VR Uki Uki Viewing Show, which was a demo playable at Tokyo Game Show in 2016 via the Vive that eventually led to Kinda Funky Newsflash's development. Outside of those, Ulala has appeared in numerous crossovers, having appeared in Sonic Riders as a secret character, Samba de Amigo, both Project X Zone games, a majority of Sega's crossover games including Sega Superstars, Sega Superstars Tennis, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed, along with many cameos in many other games including the aforementioned Astrobot. Space Channel 5, despite only receiving one celebratory release since the first two, still remains a series that Sega and fans across the world love to this day, as the series itself, along with Ulala and Friends, shall remain as a standout section of Sega's history, and for good reason. Each entry is filled to the brim with absolute charm and originality that you truly can't find anywhere else, which makes it no wonder why so many people get drawn into this brief little series. Once again, if you were to play one of Ulala's adventures, have it be Space Channel 5 Part 2. That game truly influenced me to continue seeking out and trying to get into rhythm games like I never have before. I do hope that one day we get yet another entry in Ulala's cosmic reporting journeys, as this series really does deserve more recognition than it gets, so I really hope that this video allowed some of you guys at home to check this series out for yourself. Thanks for watching. This is TNGLiam signing off from the one and only Space Channel 5. It's still fucking...